I've had a few people ask me about the hyperlinked tables of contents that I have throughout my notebook, as well as the collapsible lists that I incorporate throughout the notebook. So I wanted to make a quick video to show you how to make the hyperlinked lists as well as the collapsible lists. And the collapsible lists, all of these really come in handy. Of course, like I mentioned in a previous video, the hyperlinked lists mean that I can navigate throughout my bullet journal without necessarily needing to have these tabs across the top or the page list over on the right hand side. The collapsible lists are particularly helpful when you have a very long table of contents or a very long list, because it means that you don't have to display the entire thing simultaneously. So in the case of my Here and Now section, there are a ton of pages in this section. And so generally what I do is I only expand the list for the month that I'm on. And then, when January passes, I would collapse January and then I would expand February. And that makes this much more manageable in terms of my ability to view the list. So I also mentioned in a previous video that I really prefer the OneNote 2016 desktop version. It's probably what I use the most often, but I do use the app as well. So these lists, the collapsible list and the hyperlinked lists, can be created in either the 2016 version or the app. And so I will show you how to do it in both of those. I will say that one of the things that I like a lot about the 2016 version is that you can utilize an add-on called OneNote Gem. I believe that there is a free version. It may be just a trial period, or I'm sure it's probably limited in terms of functionality. I do have the paid version, and I feel like it is very well worth it because of all the extra features that it gives me in OneNote. So let's take a look at the 2016 version first. So I'm just going to come into my notes section of my notebook, and I am going to open up a blank page. And what I want to do is I want to create a table of contents of all of the pages in this particular section of the notebook. So the first thing that I'm going to do is start with a heading. Because really, whether you're using, if you don't have the Gem add-on, whether you're using the OneNote 2016 or the app, utilizing the headings is the key to being able to make these collapsible lists. So I'm going to start with heading 1, and I'm just going to call this, this is my notes section, and I'll call it table of contents. Okay, now one really cool thing about the Gem add-on that makes creating the hyperlinked lists extraordinarily easy is that it will actually do it for you. So with the Gem add-on, one of the tabs that I have up here at the top is called Link. And if I click on Link, I can see over on the far left-hand side is Table of Contents, and there are a number of variations of this. I use them all. But in this case, what I want is a table of contents of all of the pages in the notes section of my notebook. So I'm going to click on Table of Contents Pages, and that's going to create a new page. And you can see that I now have a hyperlinked list of all of the pages in this section. And I want this to go on one of my page templates. I don't want it on this blank page in my notebook. So I am going to cut just this list. And I'm going to come back to the page where I used my heading 1 and enter down, and I want to tab because in addition to the heading, I need to have the next line of text indented. And then I'm going to paste that. And you can see when I do that, I now have this little kind of gray arrow over to the left. And if I double click on that arrow, because I have used heading 1 and I've indented the next line of text, it will collapse that list. And then I can double click again and it's going to expand the list. If I am using Gem, I also have the option to, I also have an expand and collapse option. So I can put my cursor at the beginning of that list. I can select object. I see over here expand collapse, so I can collapse this section, and that's another way that I can do it. So the expand collapse piece you can do with gem or without gem. Where gem really comes in handy and makes a huge difference is with automatically generating that list of hyperlinked pages. The other thing that gem gives me the ability to do is this is how I created those boxes. So with gem, if I want to put this text in a box easily, I can highlight all of it. I can select object and I can select insert box. It then puts all of my text into a box. I can then shade this box differently if I want to, just to make it stand out from the page a little bit. And let's see, whoops, did not want to do that. Now I'm going to make sure this is heading again. There we go. And I can then collapse that box just like that. So using OneNote Gem in OneNote 2016, that is how I create the expandable hyperlinked table of contents. And you can see that any of these I can then click on and it's going to take me directly to that page. Now, if you don't use the 2016 desktop version, you can also do the exact same thing in the app. It's just a little bit more time intensive. So again, I'm going to come to my notes section. And like I mentioned previously, using your headings is the key here. So I'm going to start with heading 1, and I want to say notes table of contents. And I want to make 2 collapsible lists. So I am going to enter down, I want to tab over, and I'm going to use heading 2, and I'm going to say section 1. And then again, I'm going to use heading 2, and I'm going to say section 2. Now, I'm starting my list for section 1. So here I want my O1 notes and my O2 notes pages in section 1. And then I want my O3 and O4 notes pages in section 2. So now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hyperlink these pages. So if I come to notes page 1, I actually probably shouldn't have used 1. If I come to notes page 2 and I right click on that, I can select copy link to page. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to highlight this text. I'm going to right click and I'm going to select link. And I'm going to paste in the link to that page, and it's now hyperlinked it. And I'm going to do the same thing for notes page 3. So I'm going to select copy link to page, come back to my list, highlight that text, link. And this is one of those things, it takes a little while on the front end to get it all hyperlinked, but once it's done, it's done. So it really pays off to invest that time on the front end in order to have everything linked just for the sake of ease of navigation. Okay, and I'll go ahead and link this just for kicks and giggles, even though I'm actually linking to the exact same page. Okay. So now I have my hyperlinked list, and because I have used my headings, I also have a collapsible list. So you can see if I kind of scroll my cursor over this heading 1 at the top, I can see I get my little gray arrow. If I double click on that, it collapses the entire list. Let's say that I don't actually want to collapse the entire list. Maybe I just want to collapse one section of that list. So again, I can hover my cursor over section 1 text. I get the gray arrow and I can collapse only section 1 or only section 2. And that way you kind of control the size of your table of contents within your page. I hope that you have found this information helpful.